Well, it had been several years that we had been in business with friends of ours where we had seen our company flourish and grow, and we were called to move from Colorado Springs to St. Louis. What we found was that in that process, the business started growing in two different directions. And what that meant for us was that we ended up launching out from a franchise and going independent. That endeavor required that our launching would go through an entire new rebrand and have an opportunity, as we already had staff in place, but to retrain them with entirely new systems.
Everything stretched out for an additional 5 months. So we, ran at this transition full bore, working long hours, really preparing as much as we could. And then it got delayed further, so that that workload didn't abate. We just continued working as hard as we could for as long as we could. I think what led to the burnout was just a very long, arduous journey.
We found ourselves working 16 to 18-hour days, sometimes 20 hours a day, where we ended up working 6 days a week.
And so these long work hours were having a big impact on our children. We could tell that from a family dynamic standpoint. It was having an impact on the caregivers. We were kind of maxing out not only ourselves, but the support systems around us. And of course it was having an impact on our marriage as well. So everything compounding and coming together, it was just creating quite an environment that we knew we couldn't sustain long term.
What that caused, though, is probably for me, I was more impatient than I needed to be. Probably didn't give near as much grace as I could have. That really made it very much that all of our emotions were very raw towards one another in the business and outside of the business.
So we knew if we weren't able to navigate this well, there wouldn't be another season, So for us, there was a lot at stake.
Andrea and I had really got to a point of exhaustion. And last fall at C12, they had encouraged us to be able to take the opportunity to go through a weekend to remember by family life. And we did. And so because of that weekend and our time together of just making that a priority, we're able to continue to build closer relationships. We'll be able to know that, by keep our priorities what they need to be and taking care of ourselves, taking care of one another, and spending time in the Word, and then being accountable to one another for that, even in the midst of the ongoing transition, we'd be able to make it.
For us, that meant really leaning in and trusting God and letting Him show up instead of working out of our own strength. And what working out of our own strength looks like is long hours and nights and weekends and doing all we can do and often feeling like we're spinning our wheels, whereas working out of Him means taking a Sabbath and making sure that you are resting.
When you're in the midst of burnout, I don't know that you see it as burnout. You just are carrying the load that's given to you and trying to prioritize what's next in front of you. God provided for us. God really brought us to that point for a weekend to remember, that we could reconnect and really be able to pour into one another and lay our own weight that we're carrying before the Lord intentionally as a couple, to say, God's mentoring us. God's got His arms around us. We can depend solely on Him.
God is always going to stretch and grow you. It may not look like a season of burnout. It may look like something else, like a team culture issue or something else that you're working through, but He will always stretch and grow you. And so the more that you can lean in and trust, the bigger and the more exciting your story becomes, and the more that you can share and encourage those around you.